Facebook users, you got to watch out for this. A common scam is making the rounds and could be showing up in your inbox.
Scammers impersonating your friends, telling you about a government grant opportunity that could give you some money. Here's what you need to know and the action you should take to shut it down.
I've been approached about something that I think is a scam, even though my friend says that it's legitimate.
That's the voice of viewer Susan. She's raising the red flag on a scam that is again preying on innocent Facebook users.
It's a website called gofreegovernmentmoney.com, and supposedly they're giving out free grants.
Susan's friend likely isn't a friend at all, but rather an impersonator looking for someone to take the bait.
She says that she got a $500,000 grant, but I just can't believe that it's legit.
Susan's got the right idea, as the message she received from her quote friend is likely a scam, and here's how you can tell. The Federal Trade Commission says first, the government will never get in touch out of the blue about grants. It won't call, it won't text, and it won't reach out on social media, especially in the form of a friend. If this does happen to you, experts say do not give out any personal information. You might even reach out to your actual friend to say their account may be hacked or cloned. Then report the grant scam to the social media site.
But again, it's www.gofreegovernmentmoney.com.
As for this website or ones like it, don't click on it.
It's issuing a plea tonight to talk with your relatives, especially senior citizens, about the dangers of phone and social media scams.
This warning is spurred by a woman who lost $1,000 from scammers, convincing her she could get a government grant for low-income seniors.
Scammers are trying to trick people out of their money, and despite all of the warnings, they still find victims. The latest victim said she wanted to tell her story in hopes of saving someone else some heartache.
I think it's horrible.
This 70-year-old victim is mad and embarrassed, and because of that asked us not to use her name. She says the scam started with a Facebook message.
I got a message off of Facebook, and it was under a name of someone whom I went to church with and knew for many years, so I assumed it was legit.
The message put her in touch with a woman who claimed to administer a government grant program for seniors. She was asked to send personal information, and when she did, was sent a message that said she had been approved.
That was almost my whole paycheck for 1 month.
The scammers told her she had to go to Walgreens to get several gift cards in order to pay for processing fees. They even sent her a video testimonial from another senior who supposedly got a grant.
Very big thank you for giving me the opportunity to claim the federal government grant.
The victim lives on a fixed income but is out $1,000.
You know, I don't want to see other people be targeted like this. It's a horrible thing, especially when you have to go a month in between paychecks.
The Better Business Bureau warns about miraculous opportunities to get a big financial windfall of any kind.
Scammers work at this all day long. They're professionals. So just when we sort of figure out the latest scam, they're a couple steps ahead. But they're always preying on our desire to, get rich quick, or just simply to have a little extra money to pay the bills.
So here's some advice. If you get a notification saying you've won a big sweepstakes and you never entered it, oh my gosh, that's a scam. And if anybody says to pay for a fee or to pay for something, you've got to go out and buy gift cards unrelated to that and then take a picture of the back and send those numbers in, that is a scam. Don't do it. Don't get rushed into paying anything that's unusual or solicitation. Take your time to investigate. A lot of scams out there. Don't be a victim.
Tonight we have word Facebook is being used in an elaborate money scheme tied to the United Nations.
The messages appear to come from people you know, but that's just how it starts. Here's Mike Holfeld with the schemes and ripoffs alert.
Well, it intrigued me because I knew the person I thought I was communicating with.
News 6 viewer Greg Cardino is a retired high school media instructor with a tale of social media conspiracy built on messages from people you trust on Facebook.
And then she mentioned the UNDP, which is the United Nations Development Program.
The UNDP? Well, we checked. That does exist. But there's no mention of a list of Americans eligible for thousands of dollars. But that's what Greg's friend was telling him.
She gave me a number. I texted the number.
So to be clear, these were names you knew? These are people you trusted?
Yes.
That mystery contact asked him to fill out a form with lots of personal information.
Your full name, your mother's full name, full home address, date of birth, marital status.
And then there was the final layer of credible deception.
I don't know if you have heard Agent Angelina Williams. She was the one who helped me with the grant process.
Shades of catfish, a text with 2 photographs of Agent Williams. Well, that's really Lisa Madigan, Illinois' Attorney General. The second, Caroline Bouvier Kennedy. That's right, the U.S. ambassador to Japan.
I said, please call me. And then she says, my lawyer's got my phone because people are bugging me to borrow money since I received all of this cash.
She said her lawyer has the phone?
Yeah, that's what she said. But of course, this was a scammer.
Of course. So it's all a game to rip you off.
Exactly right.
We have several reports of variations of this Facebook scheme. It always centers on 3 things: your name, a list, and money. Don't fall for it.
For the past several months, my reporting team and I have been digging into what we've found out to be a sophisticated web of scams that are international in scope. Conservative estimates put the damage in the hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Victims can be found in every state of the union, and the cost is not just financial. These con artists are cowards who prey on some of the most vulnerable members of our society. And if you want to know the personal heartbreak these scammers cause, you only have to meet Norman Breidenbaugh. All told, scammers took Norman for $400,000, including the loss of his home. Norman had taken out a reverse mortgage to raise cash to keep up with his payments to the scammers. Which leads to the central question of this story. How could something like this happen?
You know, we used to say, whatever you do, don't give your credit card out over the phone. Now we say, whatever you do, don't engage in a personal conversation about your family and yourself with someone you don't know, because that is the starting point of these frauds.
Doug Shadell has spent decades investigating fraud for AARP. Here in Seattle, AARP has a call center where volunteers, called fraud fighters, counsel seniors who have been victimized by con artists.
You wouldn't believe I've been making these phone calls for months now, and I've talked to one person that lost $150,000.
She claims to have lost $50,000.
The Seattle call center has a team of 72 volunteers who have spoken with more than 10,000 victims of frauds and scams since opening their doors in 2006.
This woman lost $1,500. This woman lost $4,500.
What is the single most important thing about seniors and fraud?
Never get started with it. What you're doing when you respond to it, even if it's sending $5 in, is you're telling the bad guy, I'm someone who does this. And you're separating yourself out from someone who does this for someone who doesn't do this. That gets a big red X on your back, and now you're being targeted by the really bad guys. This is about 20 years ago. The Federal Express driver who delivers to our office came in and said, I understand you work on fraud issues, and there's a lady about a mile from here who's getting a lot of packages. Would you go visit her? And I went and visited her. Long story short, she had spent $150,000 in the last 9 months on these scams. Started with, hey, you might have won, send in $19, seems like a benign thing to do. She sends in $19, and within a week she's getting 20 letters a day. That was 20 years ago, and it still continues today. How many of you have ever gotten a call saying you may have won something, anything? How many of you, now let's be honest, how many of you, at least in the back of your mind, wondered, could this be true? We've got some new information about how these people do this. We've done a lot of research. We've interviewed con men. We've intercepted tape recordings of bad guys.
This strategy, educating potential victims and warning them to be cautious, seems obvious. You tell seniors how the scams work, they stop falling for them.
Never make a buying decision at the time of the sales pitch, period.
But it isn't always that simple. Sherry Crossland is a social worker at the Senior Center.
I know for a fact that we have people in this building who have paid money, lost money, given away money.
But when we asked to talk to some of these victims, nobody came forward. Sherry knows these people well and shared the story of a woman whose life savings had been wiped out by fraud.
I'm thinking of one woman in particular who every couple of weeks she'll bring us a bag about this big, full of all the offers, sweepstakes, you've won $1 million. And when you show her these and you say, can you see how this isn't real? Do you see how they're doing this and they're trying to get you in to do this and they want you to spend money to get the winnings? Her response is, but maybe this is the one.
Why is it that so few of these cases ever get reported? I mean, someone gets scammed. Finally, they realize they've been had. But so seldom they come forward. Why is that?
I think it's a combination of embarrassment. Many folks, as they get older, are worried that if somebody finds out that they did this thing, then they may not be able to keep their independence. But also the con men tell them not to say anything. They are very directive and very aggressive at saying, listen, don't tell anyone you've won this money because then they'll come and try and take it from you.
They have a sob story that works, or a pickup line, however you want to call it. I explained to Mrs. Coffin that if she had been a man, he would have had some other story to lure her in. They bond with them.
Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire. These states are too cold for me.
Experts told us that scammers often use tools like Google Maps to make their victims think they are nearby, but they're not.
It's extremely frustrating because he's in a foreign country, and even if I had the authority, the jurisdiction to go down there, we don't have the financial ability to send an officer. Our prosecutor, our district attorney, has told me on previous cases, if you can identify a suspect, a respondent, and develop probable cause, and that person is in the continental United States of America, we will prosecute. But he's not.
They told us these neighborhoods are infested by gangs that are killing each other over what are known as lead lists, names and phone numbers of potential victims in the United States that scammers can likely manipulate.
Like those guys sitting there, that's what they do nowadays. They just sit there and then they do scam, call people, do stupid stuff.
Millions.
Yeah.
Video of raids conducted by Jolt. There are unbelievable stacks of cash. Officials told us that these criminals have so much money, they sometimes burn it for fun. And then there are these, the highly coveted lead lists, countless names and addresses of American citizens. Here they're from Texas and Louisiana. Shelley Taylor is a distinguished professor of psychology at UCLA.
As people get older, they are more likely to focus on positive things, less likely to focus on negative things. They'll divert their attention away from negative things. They forget negative memories. So there's a general bias among older adults toward positivity. The one vulnerability that this positivity seems to create, that we know of so far, is not recognizing untrustworthy behavior as well.
Taylor and her team studied the region of the brain that deals with trust. It's called the anterior insula, and they found a startling difference in brain activity when people of varying ages were presented with established visual cues for untrustworthiness.
I would hope if anybody hears what I've had to say, give it some thought and hopefully not get involved in this scam business, because they'll end up just like me with nothing. I lost everything. And the best thing you can do, hang that god-daggone phone up. Do not talk to them in any way, shape, or form. Don't give them any information at all. Do not talk to them. If they get any information about you at all, they will use it any way they can to get you to send them money. and that's all they're interested in, getting your money.
This is an important story, and we hope we've given you a sense of how insidious and pervasive these scams, these predators can be.